Hey, business building warrior, welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. I'm your host, Jim Cockrum, and having done hundreds of episodes of this podcast, having coached literally thousands of people in e-commerce over the past 19, 20 years, I've made some observations and I love to share some of the lessons we've learned and some of those insights from time to time on our episodes. Now, if you're new around here, you should know most of our episodes are an interview with one of our successful students who's been through the Proven Amazon course training. There's a link to that at silentjimdotcom. You can go check it out if you're ready to get going. But from time to time, we have other topics and things that we work in as well, because we want to be sure to include people who have been around for a while, people who have been doing the business for a while, and they want to share their story with the rest of us to inspire us, to encourage us, and to share the journey. That's what most of the episodes are. But today is not that. Today it's me talking about some of the observations I've made over the years, having coached a bunch of people. We've got 60 coaches on our team right now. We've coached, like I said, nearly 10,000 people, which is pretty incredible. So we've got a lot of things that I think we could be sharing beyond the typical Amazon how to build a business type of content. But today's episode specifically is for those who are saying, hey, I'm not sure what I should be doing next. Maybe you're brand new. Am I positioned to start a business? Or maybe you've got some momentum. Am I positioned to grow? What should I be looking at next? And so oftentimes we present this as a business challenge question when there are some other factors that may seem obvious to you as I say this, but there's many other factors that need to be considered when you're trying to decide what's next. Should I be adding more income streams, for example? Or should I go a little deeper, go a little harder, a little faster on one of these models that Jim talks about on his podcast? We're going to talk through all of that today. A couple of announcements before we get into all of that, though. I wanted to spend a moment actually looking at some reviews we've gotten recently on our podcast. You guys have some really cool things to say. And these are some of the posts, some of the recent posts that have been made on the different platforms where our podcast appears. Now, most people who listen to this show are listen only. They consume the audio content on their favorite podcast listening app. Most of them are on iTunes, but maybe you're watching on YouTube. Glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. We get great comments there as well. We love them all. But here's just a couple from within the past. These would be the most recent, let's say, most recent feedback that we've received, the comments. Here's a 5-star review that says, I love this podcast. If you're here because you're interested in getting started in Amazon selling, then you should sort the episodes from the most recent to the oldest. It's very inspiring to hear from those who are early on in their journey, very relatable because you still hear about those rookie struggles and mistakes. They love the Coach's Corner episodes. We do those about once a week or so. Typically, it's Brian and Robin Joy Olson who host those. They love those as well. They say they're a student of the Proven Amazon course. And this is the companion. They mentioned this is the companion podcast that goes with the students of the Proven Amazon course. Although it's a brilliant standalone to be a fan of this show without being a student. And I completely agree. The reason we started doing this show was, of course, to communicate with the students of the Proven Amazon course, but we quickly realized, man, this is serving a whole lot of other people as well. Happy to continue doing that for those who aren't yet students in our community. They said that they feel like they have a hope for a very bright future for the first time ever since the pandemic. That's a pretty cool comment. There's a lot of hopelessness out there. There's a lot of struggling relationships. There's a lot of people with financial struggles, uncertainties, health challenges that they never expected, different things that have happened, emotional, mental, which kind of feeds us in a little bit to the topic we're going to get into today about being positioned for that next step in your business. What does it look like? How do you know how much you can take on? Where should you go next? What business model is right for you? Well, a lot of that does have to do with these kinds of topics. That hopelessness that's felt among so many people in culture, we're going to address that head on today. There's some very specific things that you could and should be doing to get your mind, body, soul spiritually ready to go to that next level. We see it happen all the time around here. That's what our coaching program is all about. And our courses and content, our free Facebook group, that's what it's all about, helping you not only just with the specific steps and strategies for your business, but the other important aspects as well. We'll dive into that in a moment. But I love that feedback from this listener. Here's another 5-star review saying, I'm a big advocate for learning as much as you can, even if it's for free. My fellow YouTube university grads, he says, gives them a shout out. This podcast and the free Facebook group has more free content than anyone out there. If you want to learn how to sell on Amazon, this is where you should be hanging out. They say, yeah, I completely agree. And you've heard me talk many times in the past about how proud we are of the fact that if you just listen to this free podcast, maybe you're on our free YouTube channel, and that's all you do. You consume that content, you get into our free Facebook group, you hang out with 73,000 students from around the world who are tackling the internet using creative strategies to launch and grow multiple streams of income. If that's all you do, you're going to get a lot of fantastic content, probably all that you need to actually start seeing proof of concept yourself. That's tremendous. And we love the fact that we provide all that for free. We don't hold anything back. We don't say, well, until you pay us some money, here's a few secrets we're going to keep over here. We do have to charge for some of the stuff that requires several hours of going through methodically, breaking down certain topics, making sure you understand certain skills, putting them in the right order, customizing the experience just for you based on where you're at. And that leads me to today's topic. Let's talk about one of my favorite words. The word is margin. Now, quite often when people hear the word margin, they think you're talking about the return on investment for your business. For example, you hear a lot of Replens sellers in our community talking about, oh, I got great margin on this Replen, but my margins were lower on this Replen. That's great. You need to know your numbers. Absolutely vital. But margin can be used in other ways as well. So if you're deciding today, the topic today is, what business move is next for me? What's the right decision for me? Which model should I be pursuing? One of the things I'm going to talk to you about is margin. Do you have the margin in your life for what it is that you're about to take on? Let me give you a specific example. If you say, okay, Jim, here's the situation. I want to run a marathon. I've done no training. I'm kind of out of shape, but I have that goal. I'm going to be a cheerleader. I'm going to say, that's great. Go for it. I'm a runner. I know a lot of other runners who started in far worse shape than you, and they've gone on to do incredible things running a marathon. But let's be realistic here. Tell me about your lifestyle. Tell me about your margin. How much time do you have? Well, okay, I'm working 3 jobs. That's about 80 hours a week. Can barely pay the bills. Got 4 kids. I'm a single mom, way out of shape. What's it look like for me to run a marathon? Well, that's a different game plan now. You don't have a lot of time margin. You're not quite where you need to be health-wise. That's something we can chip away at. But you're starting at a very different point than someone who comes to me and says, okay, I want to run a marathon. Help me out. I've only run 5 half marathons so far in the past year, and I'm ready to go for a full. I can only train 20 hours a week, but I'm committed to the process. I've got financial stability, relationship stability. I'm emotionally, mentally ready to go. Let's get a game plan. Well, the game plan that person's going to need is going to look very different than the game plan of the first person. Would you agree? Because life circumstances, either by choice or stuff that just happened to you. A lot of us didn't choose to have the crazy stuff happen to us that happened to. Our house was hit by lightning, for example, in 2017. Total loss of everything we owned. I didn't choose that. It certainly changed how much margin I had in my life for the next couple of years, though. That affected relationships. That affected my ability to monitor situations in my business. That affected us financially. There was a little dip, and then we climbed back out of it as we had to pay for stuff out of pocket. It was pretty crazy. So I'm not saying where you are is always a result of your choices, but you certainly can't set that aside. But regardless of if it was your choices that got you to where you are now or circumstances out of your control that got you to where you are now, you can take an honest assessment of how much margin you have and how much margin you could get back with some effort in order to start to build a business. Because building a business, growing a real profitable business will always involve taking up some of your time, effort, and energy. Some blood, sweat, and tears required. And if you don't have any time, effort, energy, or blood, sweat, and tears to give, well, there's a pretty limited set of business opportunities available to you. However, if you're on the opposite end of the scale, you've got your emotional, mental, relational, physical, and financial margin in your life. You've got those things secured. You've got some space to work with in those arenas, and I'll dive into all of those in a moment. Then your odds of succeeding are far greater on just about any business model you tackle. And you've got far more opportunities available to you, to state the obvious. You can go a lot further, a lot faster. Maybe it makes sense for you to get a coach, for example, instead of just checking out a few hundred free podcast episodes and putting it in an hour or two a week here and there as you can because you're just so busy and overwhelmed and stressed out and relationship issues. That's all you can do in that scenario. Well, if you've got a different season of life, you've got some margin in your life, now you're ready to go a little further faster. So let's break it down. What I want to do with the rest of the show today is kind of break down everything from the low margin scenarios and some of the business models that are available to you if you're a very low margin person right now, meaning it's not a reflection of your character. Again, it could be life circumstances, it could be choices you made. Either way, you get to decide where you're going to go from here, but you don't have a lot of margin. We're going to talk about that scenario. We're going to talk about some of the other scenarios, kind of in the middle of the bell curve, if you will, the typical margin we see around here when people are coming in and saying, yeah, I've got some money to work with. Yeah, I've got some time to work with. Not unlimited, of course. None of us have unlimited amounts of those things, but I've got some I can play with here. What do you got for me? All the way up to the people who would come to us. And occasionally people do come to us and say, yeah, I'm financially pretty comfortable. I've got a lot of flexible free time. I kind of want to do this thing right. What do you suggest? We'll talk all the way through all those three scenarios and what business models we suggest. And as you progress through your business growth, ideally, you're adding more margin to your life in all the important areas as well. That's doing it in a healthy way. The Bible talks about receiving blessing and abundance and having no trouble added to it. That's doing it the right way. My life isn't getting worse as I become more financially stable. My life is getting better. I'm getting healthier. My relationships are improving. That's the way it's supposed to work. I'm getting more margin as I go. And that's certainly been the journey that I've enjoyed over the years. It hasn't always been perfect. There's been struggles. We all have those challenges. We all have the surprises. There's a big list of them that I could go through just like you could. But if you choose to use the margin that you do have emotionally, relationally, mentally, that includes your mindset, right? Physically and financially, if you use your margin properly, you can move on to that next bigger opportunity. So, low margin, I got no money, Jim. I've got no time. I've got no experience. I'm barely motivated. What do you got for me? I need something to work fast. I'm a borderline desperate, which, by the way, is a rough place to start a business. We do hear from people like that. We're here for you. We want to encourage you. We want to equip you. We want you to be in our community. Being surrounded by other people telling you you can do it is important at this stage. Cheerleaders are important, having people hop in beside you. I love in our Facebook group, for example, when someone comes in and they have their first little victory, their first sale, their first $50 day. And it's like a dog pile of people coming in, congratulating them, encouraging them, saying, hey, this is the start of something special. Well done. We don't see you as a competitor. We see you as a fellow business building warrior. And the more of us that we can see succeeding and encouraging the rest of us, we want that. We need that. It motivates all of us. It's contagious to see people courageously tackling obstacles, overcoming them, and then telling the rest of us what they just did. We're encouraged by that. Courage is contagious, just like cowardice is as well. So we get no time for people to give us all their list of excuses and reasons why it isn't working. We'd rather pay attention to the hundreds of people who are doing it, overcoming, making it happen, and having a good time of it, fighting those battles, those same battles. It's all a matter of mindset. But if you come in with very low margin in regards to mindset, relationship, your emotional state, your physical state, even if you just low energy, you just don't feel good. Like those are all things, and your financial state as well. Those are things that are going to present major challenges. It's going to be much harder, no matter what program you follow, no matter who your coach is, no matter what ideas people are giving you, no matter how much encouragement they give you. You could find yourself in a state where you're in a season where it's just hard. You get to the point where, as my dad used to say, you find yourself in those places, and I've been there. I've known people there. I know people there right now. You've got to keep your eye on that long-term focused goal of where you're heading, but then just narrow it down to today. Here's a question I love to give people, and I've had this asked of me when I was having this really rough situations. If you were feeling good today, which you aren't, and that's okay, but if you were feeling good today, what's the smallest thing you would do as a step in the right direction towards what you would do if you were feeling great? Instead of feeling sorry for yourself and ignoring your problems, and no, let's just look forward focused, as that one preacher I heard say one time, when you fall down, try to land on your back, because if you're looking up, you can get up. So you want to be looking up. If I was feeling good enough to look up today, what might I look at? What might I aspire to? What might I spend 10 minutes doing? That's all you got in you. So there's people that desperate that we hear from, that are in those rough circumstances. And the good news is, if you listen to enough podcast episodes, you're going to hear people who came from those kind of situations and ended up building beautiful businesses. The business became a catalyst towards focusing on others, focusing outward, focusing on something bigger than themselves, putting their attention on something that was positive, producing results. And suddenly they see themselves emotionally stronger. Their spouse notices their relationship improves, right? So these areas where we can have margin kind of expanding and contracting, I'll give you the list again. It's emotional, relational, mental, that's mindset included, physical, and financial. You need margin in those areas to go to the next level. So if you're very low margin, what are some business models? Sell a few things you don't need. A few things around the house, put them on Facebook Marketplace. That's what I suggest. Talk to a few neighbors and say, hey, do you got anything that you don't need? Because I'm going to offer to sell it for you on Facebook Marketplace. And when it sells, I'll bring you the cash. You get half, I get half. I'll take care of the customer. You don't have to do anything, right? That doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost your neighbor anything. You're putting money in the bank with very, very low minimal effort. You're starting to get some momentum, that money flowing in. In Hebrew, did you know this, that the word for money and the word for blood are overlapping with overlapping meanings? It's pretty cool. When money's circulating, that's a healthy economy. When blood is circulating, that's a healthy body, right? When it stops circulating, that's scary. You want that money moving. You want money coming into your account, even if it's just a little bit. It's going to be very validating, motivating, encouraging. You'll feel yourself kind of coming to life a little bit. It's not a handout from a stranger. Hey, God bless strangers who help us out in times of need. But if that's all you got over the long term, that starts to suck your dignity. Like, I'm not really contributing anything. I'm just kind of a lump here, just receiving. I want to do more. How do you do more? Start selling. Happy customer comes, pays you, put some money in the bank, pay your neighbor. Your relationship starts to improve with your neighbor. You've got a customer now. Let's do that again. Let's do it bigger. Let's do 5 or 10 of those a day. This is fun. You're getting money in the bank. You're serving your customers. You're getting some momentum. What do you do next? I strongly encourage you to get into some of the Amazon training that we have. Listen to this podcast, listen to past episodes, listen to people going from knowing nothing about e-commerce to knowing a lot more and building a business, having their first $50 day, their first $500 day, their first $1,000 day, building a real business, building a team. That's the trajectory I want you to get on. As soon as you can afford $39 a month, I want you to get into the Proven Amazon course and start to learn those proven strategies that we have there. If you've got the financial margin to spend a few $100s, tools and inventory, and $39 a month on the Proven Amazon course, there's a $20 tool you're probably going to need. So it's going to be less than $100 a month by far, and a few $100s for inventory. That's all you need. You're ready to get into the Proven Amazon course. Now, if you have a lot more margin than that, that's still the course that you need, unless you want to jump into some coaching with us. And that's a higher end. We'll talk about that in a moment. But let's talk to the people who have a little more margin. You got a little bit of money, you got a little bit of time, maybe 5 to 10 hours a week that you can comfortably carve out and start to focus on your business. You're ready to go to the next step, start learning Replens. What's Replens, Jim? I'm not going to go into it right now, but that is the model that if you listen to, let's say, 300 success story podcast episodes from this channel, 290 of them are going to be people that started out with Replens and they built a beautiful business with Replens, because that's the starting point. We call it wading into the kiddie pool of the Amazon opportunity. We don't want you diving off the high dive with weights on your ankles into the private label end of Amazon selling, trying to launch your own product. Most people, that's a disaster. They've never been in the water before and they dive in off the high dive with weights on their ankles. It's going to be ugly. Someone's going to have to dive in and save you. That's not good. How about we wade in the friendly area, the kid side? kind of wading up to your ankles. Hey, the water feels good. Hey, I'm making a little bit of money. Up to your knees. Okay, taking a few bigger risks, still putting money in the bank as you learn. It's a fun experience. It's a low stress experience. That's how we've been doing it around here for years and years and years, which is why we have so many success stories. That's where we want you to start. Even if you have a little extra margin and time in your life, that's where we want you to start because it introduces you in a very friendly way to the Amazon ecosystem. Now, there's a short video I recorded. It's actually posted in our free Facebook group. If you go to silentjim.com/intro video, all one word, intro video, you will see a short video where I talk you through the Replens model. I'm not going to go into what that is. You'll hear bunches of our students talking about it if you listen to some past episodes, though, like I said. So that's kind of the middle of the bell curve. Okay, Jim, I've got some margin. I've got some time. I'm willing to investigate this. Maybe you can go a little faster even than some people could. So within a few weeks, you could have something pretty viable, proof of validation, proof of concept, because you've got some emotional margin. You've got some relational margins, the mental, physical, and financial margin. Let me just talk real quick since we're in kind of the middle of the bell curve experience. This is what most people experience when they come into our community. They've got some margin in those areas, which is why they're looking to launch a business. What do I mean by emotional margin? Well, in e-commerce, I've noticed that most people, rightfully so, are kind of skeptical if they're looking for a business. They should be. 95% of the stuff out there is complete garbage. I threw down the gauntlet on the industry a long time ago, and I said, you should completely ignore everyone, myself included, who claims to be able to teach you how to build a business, unless they've got a large, thriving, active community full of people that you can go hang out with who are doing the model successfully. If they don't have that, why are you listening to them? If they don't have a thriving community of people who are saying, yeah, I followed what he taught and it works, and here's what's happening. Now, there's some challenges because there's challenges in every business. If all you see is the bright, shiny, they're not showing you the whole picture. Every business model ever invented has rough parts. You didn't know quite what you're getting yourself into. Oh, I didn't see that coming. Hey, what are you guys doing? This happens. No one told me this was going to happen. Right? Every business you could ever possibly get into has those different areas. And a lot of people become just habitual launchers of new concepts because as soon as they hit those first few unexpected, it's like, oh, I didn't sign up for this. Unexpected, I'm out of here. It's kind of like, getting married. Like the first time something doesn't go exactly the way you thought it could, you bounce. Like, I'm going to go find someone who's perfect. Well, good luck. You're going to have to marry 80 people and die disappointed because you're not going to meet that person. There's going to be unexpected surprises. I didn't know I actually had signed up for this, but hey, I'm all in. I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to enjoy the benefits and make this work and grow this thing. So in a lot of ways, marrying a business model is kind of like marrying a partner. Stick with it. You got to decide. But if you don't have that emotional margin, the first time you're disappointed, the first time you're upset, you come in skeptical with your arms crossed, and the first little surprise, like, yep, I knew it was too good to be true. I'm off to do something else now. Well, the way we combat that and the way we encourage you through that emotional margin stage, where you can get a little more confident, a little more bold, a little more excited, is we've got hundreds of podcast episodes of people who are doing the model that we teach. You can listen to their shows. That'll start to give you some confidence. So emotionally, you can become more vested, more excited, more convinced, not just by listening to me. If that's all you listen to, I'm very, very sorry. You're getting about 5% of the experience of being a part of our community. For example, at our upcoming live event, I'm on stage for a couple hours at the beginning. I have one breakout session. Besides that, there's 40 other sessions you could attend. There's a bunch of other stuff going on from people who are doing the business. It's not just me. This community has very little to do with me, actually. I get to be the spokesman on the podcast. But we are a community of business building warriors. You need to build relationships. Pay attention to what those people are doing. Build relationships with the speakers and the guests and even the other members of the free Facebook group. Find out who lives near you. Find out how they're doing their business. Build relationships there. If I'm your only source of connection to this community, you're missing out. How do you get emotional margin? Relationships, validation, hanging out with other people who are doing it. I love those inspirational quotes that say something like, well, those of you who are saying it can't be done, please step aside and make some room for all of us who are doing it. Like, kind of getting annoying telling us it can't be done when this is what we've been doing for 3, 4, 8 years, and it's beautiful and we're making a bunch of money and having fun doing it. So all of you who are saying it can't be done, you're getting a little annoying. Maybe you could go hang out somewhere else. That'd be cool. That's what we do with our podcast. It's just validation after validation after validation of people who are doing it all day, every day, leaving their corporate jobs, launching successful businesses, wading in nice and slow, taking small risks, learning as they go by putting money in the bank at each step. They're not diving off the deep end into some crazy territory that costs them tens of thousands of dollars of risk and months and high technical new skills needed. No, they're wading in nice and slow. None of it's intimidating. We've got hundreds of those kinds of stories. So that's emotional margin, being convinced, having the mindset that says, you know what, I can do this. I'm done thinking that that's something that only happens to other people. I'm going to make it happen for me. I'm going to do what it takes. I'm going to listen to these guys. These guys have earned at least some of my trust. I'm going to wade in nice and slow here. $39 on the proven Amazon course. Get your money back if you don't love it, right? Wade in nice and slow. Learn the Replens model. Start to see that there is opportunity all around you. There really are thousands of people making tremendous businesses out of the stuff we teach just with that model. But as you start to get more margin and more confidence in your relationships, mentally, you become a little sharper, you understand it, get some more margin there, more confident with the way you're making your business decisions. Maybe even physically, you start to get in shape better. You're more focused. Maybe you're eating better. A lot of times people will improve their life in all areas simultaneously. It's kind of like an expanding balloon. You know, you've written all these important areas on it and they're all getting bigger, expanding together. You've taken up more space. You've got more margin now. You've got more assets you can work with. Hey, we'll get back to the show in just a second, but I've got to tell you about a great sponsor who's just joined us. I'm talking about Seller Board. This is a very popular service used by many Amazon sellers in our community because they understand how important it is, how crucial it is to know your numbers. How do you know how profitable you are? All those fees, the different expenses, the cost of goods sold. How do you track it all? Seller Board is phenomenal. Starting as low as just $15 a month with a 2-month trial on top of that. You really need to check these guys out. Get over to silentjim.com/numbers. Again, silentjim.com/numbers. It's time to know your numbers. It's an accurate profit analytics software tool just for Amazon sellers. They've been doing this since 2017. It is a really cool tool doing some things that I'm unaware of anyone else doing. So the pricing starts at $15. Like I said, get your 2-month trial at silentjim.com/numbers. It's kind of like an expanding balloon. You know, you've written all these important areas on it and they're all getting bigger, expanding together. You've taken up more space. You've got more margin now. You've got more assets you can work with. A lot of times you'll see people take that journey. They'll start to get themselves physically fit as their business starts to take off. They'll work on the relationships with a little more intentionality. That confidence kind of fuels all the areas of their life. And of course, financially too, that's the whole goal. But as you start to see some of those things happening, yeah, okay, let's get some branded bundles. Maybe let's start talking about some other these creative strategies we have. Print on demand is some of the content that we have coming very soon. We're going to be talking about it a lot at our Proven conference, which is happening about the time this podcast episode comes out. So I'm not sure if you still have time for getting the live stream offer. July 6th through 8th is our conference. You can get the recordings if this is too late, but go to theprovenconference.com to get details. Because this episode, I'm not sure if it'll be right before or right after that conference. It's hard to tell right now the time I'm recording this. But one of the things we're talking about of the 40 breakout sessions that I mentioned, one of them is print on demand, which is a low risk way to get your own products that nobody else can sell against on Amazon. Should you start there as a brand new seller? No, you shouldn't. You should wade into the kiddie end of the pool. You're going to have your floaties on your arms and you're going to have your sunscreen on and your big goofy hat and you're going to feel like you look kind of silly and maybe you do. That's okay. Part of starting a new business is asking silly questions, making a little bit of a fool of yourself, asking stuff that's been asked 1,000 times before. But trust me, no one's pointing and laughing. We were all there before. We want to see you succeed. We want to see you start to swim. We want to see you on the high dive someday, inspiring all of us. That's the goal. But we all start with the same level of not knowing what we're doing. We do start, however, with different levels of margin, which is the topic today. So as you start to succeed with some of these early business models, maybe you're selling books as one of the low-end business models. Just to revisit that for a second, I forgot to mention this one. Selling books not on Amazon, but You can gather books from friends, neighbors, let folks know you sell books. You can split the money with them if you want. We've got a course. It's called Safe Book Profits. If you go to provenamazoncourse.com/safebookprofits, you will see the course, and it's fantastic. It's simple. You can learn it in a couple hours. You're sending books in bulk to bulk book buyers, what kind of books you need to get, how to build a system around that. It's a very low risk way to start to put some serious cash in the bank to start to fuel and create more margin for yourself so you can start to build some of these other business models. Because as you have more margin, you want to automate, you want to build systems, you want to build a team, you want to get yourself to the point where, and this is the way I approach business after 20 years. I wish I had someone early on kind of coaching me through this, but as you build margin into your life, emotionally, relationally, things are good at home. You've got great friendships, great connections. You're adding to the list of friends and people that know, like, and trust you. You've got a good mental, emotional mindset. Physically, you're taking care of yourself. You can focus longer. You can consume more content in a day and still get a lot of good things done. That requires physical fitness. That requires focusing on, keeping yourself sharp, right? Financially, you've got a little more money you can play with and risk. I mean, for some of us, risking $500 is a really big deal. Like, that's scary. If this doesn't go well, that's scary. For others, they could do that with $50,000 and wouldn't even raise their heart rate. How much margin do you have to work with here, right? But as those things improve, you can start to step into building systems and teams to where you're working less and achieving more. You're actually building margin into your life while working less intensively, changing what you're working on. Like my typical daily schedule, I'm working on relationships. I'm connecting with coaches. I'm connecting with clients. I'm talking with our content creators, helping tweak and shape courses. Maybe I didn't get paid anything by any of those people today, but at some point, those are building into nice things that happen later that are big and significant. That's because I've got some margin. I've got a little bit of money in the bank. I've got my health, staying sharp. I feel very positive and optimistic about the industry that I'm in. I've got plenty of proof of concept and validation. I mean, I'm the guy that's done most of the podcast interviews. I know this stuff works. I've talked to the people. These are my friends. 700 of us are going to hang out in Columbus, Ohio for a couple of days, July 6th through 8th, 2023. Like, these are people doing the business. So emotionally, mentally, even spiritually, I would add in there, because I believe this is a very spiritual journey that I'm on, helping people use the internet creatively to launch and grow businesses. So many of us on our team, we see this as a ministry, by the way. So many of the about 100 leaders on the team around here, the content creators, coaches, et cetera, we really see ourselves pouring into the lives, making huge changes in people's lives because of the lifting of the financial struggles and the confidence that comes, the physical, emotional, relational changes we see inside of people. So that's what I get to do. It's very motivating and encouraging. It becomes like a flywheel, an ever expanding flywheel. There's always plenty of work to do. And yeah, there's always going to be stress. There's always going to be decisions that you regret and things that you should have done that you didn't and opportunities missed. But you've just got so much more margin in your life. Maybe you start a podcast, you spend some time talking about it, right? Have you noticed, like, we do a lot of podcast episodes around here? It takes a lot of my time, effort, energy. I go live in the Facebook group a lot. How do you have all that time, Jim? Well, because I've got a team. I've built margin into my life. I've built systems and processes. You can't build systems and processes hustling from yard sale to yard sale, flipping one thing at a time. You're going to be in hustle mode. To start to have some margin in your life, some time margin in your life, some financial margin in your life, you're going to have to start to build systems and build teams. So as we move through this spectrum of having no margin, no time, no financial, no mental, emotional, physical margin, to having some, starting to build systems, to getting over to where, like, yeah, you know what? I think I could probably afford to pick up a coach. I mean, I've got the time. I'm ready to take this seriously. I'm ready to put in some hours. I'd like to make this happen faster rather than slower, because that's the thing I want to point out. If you don't have much margin, it's going to take you more time. If you have some margin, you're going to be able to go a little faster. If you have plenty of margin, time, emotional, relational margin is all there. Like, you're good. You got some spare room in your life. You can go super smoking fast. And that's who we say, you're crazy not to get a coach if you're in that category. I would argue you can use a coach at any stage. If you have the financial and time margin, you can use a coach at any stage. But you're crazy not to use one of our coaches if you've got adequate financial, physical, emotional, mental, relational margin. You might be asking, Jim, what do you mean by relational margin? Well, does your spouse think you're crazy? Here we go again. Another one of your crazy ideas. You better not be spending any more money on this crazy stuff. Okay, well, you don't have a lot of relational margin to work with. Your window, your failure and success window is really thin. Like there's a thin line there, buddy. This better go well. Okay, let's back off and do some of the things that don't cost us any money. Let's get proof of concept. That's some of the earlier strategies I talked about. Let's flip some stuff for neighbors on Facebook Marketplace. Let's show some money going into the bank account. Let's show that you have the drive and determination to stick with something for more than 2 weeks, right? Get that spouse, that person that loves you, your doubting friends or parents saying, yeah, okay, you're on to something here. And they start to expand. Use that margin, that momentum to expand. Does that make sense? Relational margin. In all of these areas, emotional, relational, mental, physical, financial, and even time. Do you have some time on your schedule? You're working 3 full-time jobs, trying to raise 6 kids by yourself. Well, there's not a lot of margin there, is there? It's a season of life. You need to figure that out. Create some margin. It may be a process. It can take some time. But once you have margin in these areas, you're ready to go forward fast, and we're there to go with you. You're crazy not to look into our coaching. There's a link at silentjimdotcom where you can go check out our coaching program, get on our schedule, have a nice, friendly, slow paced discussion. We're going to talk about your business. We're going to help you get to that next stage. We're going to give you advice on probably where you should be focused based on where you are right now. We can have that margin conversation with you. My spouse thinks I'm crazy. I don't have any money. I've never sold anything online before. What do you got for me? Well, you know what? The free Facebook group, this free podcast, flip a few things on Facebook Marketplace. Take your time. We'll still be here. We've been doing this 20 years. We've coached 10,000 people. Take your time. Then we have other people that call up and like, hey, I'm ready to go. I've been listening for a while. I'm good to go. Where do I sign? I want a great coach. I'm ready to go full speed. I've sold a few things now. I know the Replens system works. Or maybe you're just saying, hey, teach me everything. I'm just convinced. I'm good to go. We'll work with you. We'd love to. We'd love to hook you up with one of our coaches. Something you should know about our coaching program, by the way, we do things very differently. One of the reasons we've lasted 20 years as an e-commerce coaching company, where to my knowledge, no one else has lasted half that long in e-commerce coaching, is because we do things very differently. First, every one of the coaches on our team has built a beautiful business using the proven Amazon course systems that we teach and train here. No exception. That's the only way you get a foot in the door to even have a discussion with us, is you've built a robust business using these strategies. Next, they're high empathy and they have a teacher's heart. They love people. They don't see you as a competitor. They see you as a future business building warrior. You could potentially join our team and change our lives with some of the insights and experiences and connections that you have. We've had people bring things to this community that have changed thousands of lives. Every new student who comes in, we see them as almost like you might view a handful of apple seeds, like, wow, this apple seed could be 1 billion apple seeds if planted and properly nurtured and watered and grown. Yeah, let's help people plant where they need to be planted and nurture them into abundance. We have an abundance mindset. One of our favorite words around here is abundance, meaning we see success as something that as many people who want it can have it. It's a decision you make, basically. Well, Jim, you don't know about my circumstances. Life's been really, really rough on me. I can't afford to have an abundance mindset. No matter what margin you have right now, you can make the choice to do a couple little things that get you going in the right direction to start to create a little more margin mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, a little more time in your day. Turn off Netflix, maybe, right? That's a little more time I could spend researching, reading. One of the things I've noticed a lot of successful people do is they consume a lot of really good content, stuff like this podcast or the book, Silent Sales Machine, version 11's out now. Haven't made much fanfare about it, but if you've listened this long, that's definitely something you're going to enjoy. Go to silentsalesmachine.com. Version 11 is out. We'll stick a link in the show notes. I've updated this thing 11 times over the past, 20 plus years. And right on time for our 11th annual conference, by the way, silentsalesmachine.com. You can read through the chapter subtitles and see if it's a book that's interesting to you, but it's going to help you make the right decision as far as launching the right kind of business to start your multiple income stream journey online while taking very small risks. I make the promise in the book that None of the stuff we're going to teach you is expensive, and it's not. Very low dollar commitment needed, and none of it's technically complex. You don't need a bunch of new tech skills. You don't need to be confident in the arena of programming and graphic design. No, you don't need any of that stuff. So that's the book. It walks you through the different business models. It talks a lot about, one of my favorite parts is all the things you should not do when talking about launching a business, the things that give you no advantage. The internet has changed the rules. There's a lot of advantages you have, but you can use the internet to get into some of these zero advantage scenarios where you might as well not even be using the internet. Like, you're doing business the way it was done in the 70s. You're ignoring the new technology and the free resources that are available to you. Why would you do that? I mean, sure, some people can and some people might succeed, but I'd rather improve my odds and use these great new free tools and strategies and these techniques that are available because of the internet. Business has never changed and it never will change. It's about delivering a product to a customer at a price that allows you to continue delivering it without needing donations or loans because you're making a profit. So you can continue doing what you do without any outside assistance. That's called profit. Well, business is never going to change, but the internet makes it possible for us to test many new strategies, to deploy many new techniques and tools that cost you very little or nothing. So you can test and you can fail and you can tweak and you can learn as you go. That's what the Silent Sales Machine book is about. No matter where you're at on your journey of finding more margin in your life, scaling and building your systems, I think you will really enjoy the Silent Sales Machine book. Let me know what you think. We'll talk about it more on another episode, probably here at some point. But that's my discussion of margin. And just so I can recap on today's big point, what's the big lesson, Jim? There's a lot more that goes into you succeeding in business than just learning a new skill set and following the instructions that someone gives you. Because we've literally given the exact same set of instructions at this point to thousands and thousands of people. And some of them come back and say, this is crazy. You guys are just selling snake oil. There's nothing here. I'm going to move on to the next shiny object and then the next and the next and the next and call them all scams and snake oil and shiny objects. And then there's other people who take the exact same set of instructions and the exact same information and build amazing businesses and come back and say things like those reviews I just read. We've got hundreds and hundreds of incredible reviews. In our Facebook group, we've got 1,700 tagged success posts from people saying, wow, this works. Look, I'm making money. Look, I'm selling stuff for the first time ever. I didn't understand e-commerce at all a couple months ago. Now look at my business. And in spite of that overwhelming evidence, we've just come to expect it. There's going to be a bunch of people who come to us and say, oh, that's a bunch of garbage. I heard this and this and that. It doesn't work for anybody. So here we are again saying, hey, with those of you saying it's not possible, please step aside and make some room for the thousands of us who are actually doing it all day, every day, and making great money doing it and have been for years. You guys kind of step over there into that room over there maybe and complain about things because we're busy over here with an abundance mindset, building beautiful businesses, helping each other do it based on the exact same strategies that you're claiming could never work. We know that they do because they work all day, every day around here for thousands of people. Matter of fact, on Amazon right now, every day, about 30% of the stuff they're selling is being sold by people who are following the types of strategies that we teach here. A very low risk, low capital investment needed, small learning curve, very high odds of success once you know what you're doing. Go watch that intro video about the Replens system, and that'll explain. Remember, silentjim.com/intro video. You have to get into our free Facebook group to see that video. Go watch it. It's only about 20 minutes long, maybe. I'll give you all the details you need to see if that minimal commitment, low margin business model, the proven Amazon course base strategy is right for you. Once you've got that base strategy down pat, you put some money in the bank. Some people go to 7 figures plus with just that model, but you can start to tack on some of the other more systemized, slightly higher risk, slightly more skill needed business models, and you can build a multiple income stream empire out of the stuff that we teach. So that's the big lesson from today. Do you have the margin in your life? Let's recognize it. Maybe write it down. Maybe visit some of these areas and just be honest with yourself. Time, emotion, relationships, mental/mindset, right? If you believe nothing good will ever happen to you, you need to work on that because success is a choice. We've seen many, many people make that choice and go on to be very successful, overcoming a negative mindset. That's big. And one great way to improve that, by the way, is by gratitude. If you're having trouble with mindset, think of all the things you have to be grateful for. If you can't make a list of 50 things you're grateful for, you've got a bad mindset. You need to work on that by forcing yourself to think of 50 things that you're very grateful for. We've all got that. Like, Jim, what are you talking about? Like clean drinking water? When's the last time you struggled to find enough water to last through a day? Well, that's the reality of a lot of people. Most of them don't have internet. You got internet, by the way. There's another thing to be grateful for, right? Make your list. That'll help you get a better mindset, a better mental approach. That optimism, that gratitude, I should say, will fuel your optimism, give you a good mindset. Now you've got some margin you can work with. Like, I could build something here. Maybe there is a better way. Then you've got your physical, your fitness. Is that heading in the right direction or is it not? Let's get that heading in a good direction. There's some margin there. You've got some more energy. You can focus. You're in better state of mind to learn. The things you eat, how you spend your time. Are you taking at least a good walk every day and getting outside enough? That sort of thing, right? And then finally, financial. Do you have some margin there? If not, I've given you some good tips. There's a lot of great tips on these past podcast episodes. But write those down. Write those areas down. How can I get more margin in my life? Am I watching too much Netflix? Am I spending money on things I shouldn't be spending money on? I could be putting that money into a business and an inventory instead of toys, stuff that's going to sit on the shelf and go in the trash a month from now. Those are things that you can be honest with. And we can't do those things for you, but we can certainly say we've seen a lot of other people do those things and go on to build beautiful businesses. I'm very passionate about this topic. I love seeing people go from that place of borderline desperation to a place of high functioning leader, building a beautiful business, becoming a pillar of their community. Their relationships are improving with their spouse, with their kids, doing life together, being proud of what they've grown, because we've seen it happen for so many other people. We want that for you. We want that for everyone who's hearing this. That's what this community is all about. Well, God bless you, business building warrior. It's been great hanging out with you today. Hopefully you learned some really good stuff. A couple of reminders as we wrap this one up. Go watch that 20-minute video about Replens. silentjimdotcom/intro video. It's a kind of dated video at this point, but I could make it today. As of June, July 2023, it's 100% spot on, as relevant as when I made it. Go watch that video. The Silent Sales Machine version 11 book is out. Go check it out, silentsalesmachine.com. Hey, if you're a coaching student or a proven Amazon course student, it's completely free to you. Or if you've read it in the past, you've read a past version maybe, we've sold over 1 million copies of that book. We're giving it completely free to everybody who's read it in the past or coaching or proven Amazon course students. So contact our support team if you need help on any of that. It's in the learning portal for the proven Amazon course. Okay, so there's a couple of announcements, but I'm going to wrap it up for today. We will have another great episode for you again very soon. It was an honor to spend some time with you today. Thanks for being a listener. Hey, leave us a review if you don't mind. We'd really appreciate that. Talk to you soon. Hey, thanks for hanging out today. Before I let you go, one short reminder. We are so grateful to our new sponsor to this program, Seller Board. If you haven't checked them out yet, get over to silentjim.com/numbers. This is the software that tells you if you're profitable or not. It helps you track all of your expenses, your KPIs, sales, refunds, advertising costs, all of it. Profit, loss. This is tremendous software that fills a gap in the marketplace. Many successful sellers in our community are using this tool to help them know which of their products are profitable and which ones aren't. You'll love Seller Board. For just $15 a month starting, you can really dial in and know how your business is doing. silentjim.com/numbers. Talk to you next time.